1. Support UN reforms, Narendra Modi tells Africa. This topic will be important under General Studies Paper 1. Important international institutions, agencies and their structure, mandate. Why recently in news? Raising the pitch for UN Security Council reforms, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday asked 54 African nations to join India in demanding an overhaul of the global body to make it more democratic, inclusive and representative of the current world. He said the present-day world was facing challenges like terrorism and climate change, which did not exist when the UN was founded 70 years ago. The global body ran the risk of losing relevance if it did not adapt to the new systems in the world. India advocates reforms in global political, economic and security institutions. Global bodies must become more democratic, inclusive and representative of our world. No institution will have that character today if it does not give voice to Africa, or the world's largest democracy, constituting 1/6 of humanity, the Prime Minister said. They demanded UN reforms. Many countries, particularly small and middle powers, submitted detailed opinions and sought reforms in categories of membership, veto, regional representation, size of the enlarged council and its working methods, and the relationship between the Security Council and the General Assembly. From where comes the opposition? France and the UK made their submissions and their views were reflected in the document. The setback to the whole exercise came from China, Russia, the US and some others, when they expressed their opinions in vague, but negative terms and kept out of the framework document the substance of the positions of China, Russia and the US. China declared that the time had not come for any serious negotiations, but it would support necessary and reasonable reform, with greater representation for developing countries. Russia was equally vague and supported any reasonable option of expanding the Council, but without any change in the veto. The US favored a modest expansion, without supporting any formula under consideration and no alteration or expansion of the veto. The UK made no mention of their support to India as a permanent member. France even expressed no objection to the veto power being extended to the new permanent members. What's going on among G4 nations in the race of bringing reforms to Security Council? G4 have already made a compromise on the veto, the claim to which would be suspended for 15 years. The next step will be to accept anything less than permanent membership, such as extended non-permanent terms, subject to re-election every 5 years or more. Germany has already toned down its demand for permanent membership because of over-representation of Europe. This may well be the motive for France and UK also to support G4. Japan is clearly a liability because of the open opposition by China. India and Brazil too have opposition from their regions, but nothing serious to block their entry in the event of a settlement. What are the merits and demerits in India's claim to membership? India has remained the leader of G4. But there is a section of opinion that India's position on the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and its border disputes with Pakistan and China might be impediments to its permanent membership. The India-US nuclear deal was expected to give de facto recognition to India's nuclear status. but its non-NPT status came in the way of its entering the Nuclear Suppliers Group, NSG, and the Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR. So there is no particular pressure on India to relent on these issues. The way forward. Reform of the Security Council is an existential requirement for the organization. If it resists all proposals for change in the years to come, there is a real risk of the UN being sidelined or rival organizations taking over its agenda. Therefore, it is likely that some changes would be accommodated on the basis of one of the two alternatives proposed by Kofi Annan. 2. Festival of Flowers Bathukam is celebrated in Telangana. This topic will be important under General Studies Paper 1. Indian Culture Festival celebrated in India. Why recently in news? The festival known as Bathukama is Telangana's floral festival, traditionally celebrated by women across the state. Every year this festival is celebrated as per Telugu version of Hindu calendar in the Bhadrapada Amavasya, also known as Mahalaya Amavasya. Usually in September-October of Gregorian calendar. Bathukama is celebrated for 9 days during Durga Navratri. It starts on the day of Mahalaya Amavasya and the 9-day festivities will culminate on Sadala, Bathukama or Peda Bathukama festival on Ashwayuja Ashtami, popularly known as Durgashtami, which is 2 days before Dasara. Bathukama is followed by Bodhima, which is a 7-day festival. Bodhima festival that marks the ending of Vasha Rutu. Whereas Bathukama festival indicates the beginning of Sarad or Sharat Rutu. Bathukama represents cultural spirit of Telangana. Bathukama is a beautiful flower stack, arranged with different unique seasonal flowers, most of them with medicinal values. In 7 concentric layers in the shape of temple Gopuram. In Telugu, Bathukama means Mother Goddess come alive. And Goddess Mahagauri, life giver, is worshipped in the form of Bathukama, the patron goddess of womanhood, Mahagauri Devi. 3. India's beauty lies in its diversity, says PM in Mann Ki Baat. This topic will be important under General Studies Paper 1. Indian Culture and Diversity in India. Why recently in news? The mantra of unity should always be the medium of our thinking, our behavior and expression, Mr. Modi said in his radio program Mann Ki Baat. India is full of diversity. It has different sects, different religions, different languages and different castes. There are so many diversities in our India, and this diversity is our beauty, the Prime Minister said in his 35-minute program. Unity and diversity in India. India is a vast peninsula with a total land area of about 33 million square kilometers, and population exceeding 120 crores. Its length from north to south is about 3.200 kilometers and breadth from east to west is nearly 3,000 kilometers. Because of its area and population, India is generally referred to as a subcontinent. Geographically, it is a land of contrasts in numerous ways. It provides almost every type of climate, from extreme heat to extreme cold all the year round. The hilly regions in the north and elsewhere are as cold as some of the coldest parts of Europe. Certain areas in south are the hottest in the world. In Mumbai and Malwa, the climate is temperate, though West Bengal is more humid. India is a plural society. It is repository of multiplicity of cultures. Indian civilization, stretching over 5,000 years, provides the most distinctive feature in the coexistence of unity in diversity. India is said to be a synthesis of diverse social and cultural elements. A grand synthesis of cultures, religions and language of the people belonging to different castes and communities has upheld its unity and cohesiveness despite foreign invasions, and the Mughal and British rule. National unity and integrity have been maintained even though sharp economic and social inequalities have obstructed the emergence of egalitarian social relations. It is this synthesis which has made India a unique mosaic of cultures. India is, in fact, a panorama of its own types without a parallel in other continents. Foreign invasions, immigration from other parts of the world and the existence of diverse languages, cultures and religions have made India's culture tolerant, on the one hand, and a unique continuing and living culture with its specificity and historicity on the other. Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Islam, Sikhism and Christianity are the major religions. Besides 22 constitutionally recognized languages, there are several hundred dialects. There is diversity not only in regard to racial compositions, religious and linguistic distinctions but also in patterns of living, lifestyles, occupational pursuits, inheritance and succession of law and practices and rights related to birth, marriage, death etc. The idea of unity of India is inherent in all its historical and socio-cultural facts as well as in its cultural heritage. India has one constitution providing guarantees for people belonging to diverse religious, cultures, and languages. It covers people belonging to all socio-economic strata. India possesses varieties of social, economic, geographical conditions. In India there is unity in apparent diversities of race, religion, language, custom etc. The distinctive feature of India in its unity and diversity is also reflected in the social ethos.